I've started recording.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I don't know why that's coming through the transcript. There you go. Brilliant. Right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for coming along this evening. Today we are joined by John Stacey, who will be doing today's guest talk. In the meantime, while we're talking, please feel free to ask any questions you may have, and we'll be more than happy to answer it. And for anyone who is watching this later on, this will be on our private YouTube channel. So, John, welcome along to the University of Lincoln Business Society, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm John. I'm John Stacey. Happy to kind of be here tonight, and thank you very much for asking me to come along. Do you want me to just wade into it and I'll stick my slides up and start cracking on and just go from that? Because actually part of my talk is introducing myself properly, so may as well do it that way if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic.
Bro, I'll share that then. So if I go here, let me know when you can see the slides. Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
Cool, excellent. Right. So yeah, I've been asked to come along tonight and talk to you about life management, but also sort of give you an insight to myself and talk a little bit about me and kind of what I do. So the intro, the title slide gives you a bit of an insight as to probably why I need a bit of life management. I've got a lot of things that I'm part of and what I do, and I'll talk to you a bit about that as we go. So firstly, just what I'm going to cover tonight, and I'm going to whiz through it really fast. Obviously, I'm not going to drone on and keep you listening to too much about all of this, but the idea of tonight really is to give you a bit of an insight into me and talk to you a little bit about what I do and how I got to the stage I'm at. And big massive part of that story, I guess, is this life management versus time management thing. So I'll break that down. I'll give you a bit of insight into that. I'll also tell you a bit about burnout. So obviously burnout's probably a term that some people are aware of. We'll do a bit of myth busting, talk about the truth around burnout, and tell you a bit about what to expect and what to look out for. And then I'll leave some time for questions by all means as well. So that's all we'll be going through. I'm going to whiz through this about me. You don't want to sort of hear about everything to do with every single part of my life, you know, like kind of at what age I, you know, first kicked a football and all those kinds of things. So I'm going to whiz through this about me. First of all, I am sort of from Lincoln. I moved here when I was about 6 or 7. And I moved here with my family who we're from the northeast, and my dad and we used to be in the RAF, so obviously he knew the area, and as he left the RAF decided to come back because it's a nice area. So I moved down here, went through the school system here, hence why I don't have a Geordie accent anymore. It's kind of gone out the window. I was a good student at school. I worked really hard and really enjoyed school, actually, which is quite rare. A lot of people my age kind of hated school. But I had a really good time at school, but wasn't really much of a nerd. I kind of was also quite popular, I guess, as cheesy as that sounds. I was quite popular, enjoyed myself, was in all the sports teams and stuff like that. But towards the end of my schooling, music took over, and I kind of found this love for music and developed this sort of desire to not really care about GCSEs and A-levels and things like that. But that's another story. I did go to uni after music college. I went to Newcastle, but I went for all the wrong reasons. I went to do music, and it kind of wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to study music any further. So I enjoyed uni a bit too much and ended up dropping out because I wasn't really studying. So I have that dropout story too. And then I had sort of about 5 years of not really having any idea of what I wanted to do in my life. So yeah, about 4 or 5 years of just kind of traveling around doing silly jobs, and ended up down in Cornwall for a little while and things like that. Then I came back to Lincoln actually around sort of when I was about 22, 23. And I went to University of Lincoln. And I couldn't leave. So I graduated in 2012 and ended up into a job at the university in marketing and working in the school's liaison team and working with young people, trying to encourage them to go to university, etc., etc. And then I moved on to working for the College of Science, and I was the marketing manager there for 5 or 6 years. So sort of fell into marketing in a way, but kind of marketing's always been a part of my life, I guess. Sales and marketing's always been a big thing with regards to my career, and I've always really enjoyed that connection with people. And now I work for a private firm, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. But I also do a million other things, the many hats that we'll talk about too. A lot of people sort of say you wear too many hats, you got too much going on, and that's why I'm here talking to you about life management. So what do I do now? What's the many hats? Well, I work for a company called Praetorian, which are a disabled access company. So we design, manufacture, and distribute around the world disabled access devices. So that's things like alternative mice, keyboards, switch devices, so that people with a range of disabilities can get access to digital access for computers, iPads, tablets, things like that. We're one of the market leaders for a lot of our products, and we, considering we're a small company in Gainsborough, we actually do ship everywhere around the world. So it's quite a big deal in the industry, but quite a small industry. So I'm the sales and marketing manager for that company. I also am the founder and managing director of MenTalk Links. MenTalk Links are a support site, CIC, community information community information company. So community interest company, sorry. So it's basically to bridge the gap between the services, the clinical services that are out there, and your mates, your friends, your mum, your dad, your partners, for any kind of mental health support, really. So peer support led activities and lots of different signposting and things like that. And I could wax lyrical about MenTalk all day. But over the years, I've developed this skill set in mental health due to my own struggles and my own sort of story. And I've done a lot of qualifications and mental health first aider. I'm assist trained for suicide prevention and a number of other things too. I'm also a trustee for a local maternity services charity called Lambs, which is fairly new. I've got a large Instagram following with regards to fathers' mental health support nationally, and I've lobbied Parliament, been on delivered keynote speeches for the NHS and Public Health England around fathers' mental health and equalising fathers' mental health. And I'm also part of a couple of community groups. I'm a trustee for one. I've actually got a meeting straight after this for my local village community group, the Good Neighbourhood Scheme it's called. And yeah, among other things, I'm a dad, a husband. I support Sunderland. Don't hate me for that if any football fans are in the room. And I like to run a little bit when I get a chance, but I am a bad runner. I just enjoy it rather than thinking about pace and things like that. So that's a little bit about me. I've kind of given you a bit of a sort of a kind of a nugget, really, a sort of crumb, sort of dribble into why I probably need to know this, and why over the last sort of, I don't know, 10 years, I've developed pretty good sort of skills in this area. And I want to impart some of those skills to you guys. So in this slide, we're going to talk about life management versus time management. And they're two very, very different things. So you've probably heard the term time management. You know, you probably think some of you may be really good at organizing your time and your days and your work and the things that you are doing. And that's where the difference is. Time management is your micro work. It's your daily routine. It's the things you're doing for a job, perhaps. It's the things you're doing for an assignment or something like that, where you break it all down and you're working towards something. And some people struggle with managing their time around other things that they do. And the key thing here, I mean, there's loads of different tips I could throw at you for this kind of thing, but the big thing for me is working smart and not hard. And that's where the SMART objectives come in. So if anybody hasn't heard of this, please do look into it. But the acronym SMART, make sure everything is smart. So it's about making it more measurable, which is the M actually, but it's about making things a lot more measurable and a lot more detailed so that you can narrow it down. I put the blah, blah, blah in there because I want to give you your own time to sort of develop your understanding of SMART objectives. And I will come back to it too. But make sure everything you're doing is defined. So it's definitive. It's not just, oh, I'll try and do this. No, give yourself a defined goal, a defined small goal, and it'll be easier to achieve. And all of that really, and all the different tips around time management, this is about efficiency. It's about kind of making sure that what you'll do is efficient. It's not, you know, graph for nothing. It's efficient to an actual goal and objective. And this is a great way of being and a great habit to get hold of for all walks of life, and certainly one that can help you with your health and your fitness and your mental health, as well as kind of lots of different other areas of your life, relationships, friendships, whatever. Having a bit more of a smart mindset and working towards conversationally being quite a smart and measurable person will help you in lots of confusing parts of your life. So moving on to life management and how it's different. Life management is more of your macro kind of life. So time management's micro. It's every sort of little part about your different working day, perhaps. Life management is the bigger picture. It's taking a step back. It's looking above your life almost and watching yourself downwards. And why do you need to life manage? Well, there's a load of reasons why you might need to life manage, and I've already highlighted a few with regards to my own life. we often say yes too much. We think we have to. We think we need momentum. We think we need to always be yes people to get what we want and get what we need in life. We always want more. There's this kind of culture that we always want to get more and more money, or more sort of material goods, or to get better people, better looking, whatever you want to call it. And we have drive. So some of us have drive, which can be quite negative, but some of us have drive, which can be really positive. But this drive thing is an innate human thing. We all have drive, or we all should have drive. So that's another reason why life management might need to take some more control. And the final one is this hustle culture. And I've put there because I hate the phrase hustle culture. And hustling is not something that you should really be, for me, being pushed towards. And I kind of hate that in this modern culture that, you know, graph, work. If you're working smart, you don't need to hustle. If you're thinking about your objectives and being as efficient as you can, you don't need to have that hustle culture at all. You don't need to push yourself. You don't need to be doing 10 different things. There's a phrase that someone taught me a while ago: 10% of 10 things is nowhere near as good as 100% of one thing. And you might be thinking, well, that's a bit ironic, because on that last slide, John, you told me about all the million things you do. But effectively, what that sort of taught me was give my most in the moments that I'm doing it. Don't just spread yourself into everything. And that's where this hustle culture comes in, where people think they can do 10 things at once. It's not possible. So how do you get better at life management? I told you a little bit about smart objectives for time management. How do you get better at life management? For me, it's one key thing. It's your values. It's what's important. And there's tons of different methods again about how to work this out. But for me, there's a really, really quick one that I want to sort of give to you guys for anybody who wants to work out what your values are. If you're unsure about what means the most to you, give yourself 1 minute, set a timer for 1 minute for 60 seconds, and then scribble down on a bit of paper or on a Word document every single thing that you think means something to you. And I say think because just literally just garble it down. as many things as you want. It could be a whole page, it could be 5 things, whatever. When you finish that minute, have a look at that list. Don't think about them anymore, any more things. Just look at that list and kick out a load of stuff that you think actually is not that big a deal. It's not the bigger picture stuff. It's the micro stuff. Think about the macro side of things. What's really valuable to your life, your future right now? And then reduce them all down to the core values of the things that you want to have in your life or be in your life. And then focus on those things. And I guess the next thing really is to understand why they are important to your life management. Because when you have them focused, then your life management becomes a lot easier. So after that minute, you probably might want to add to this in the future, but that's okay. But have a look at that list and refer to that list a lot and remind yourself that's how you manage your life, around those values, not around everything else. Don't let it all interrupt your life, and manage your life around those values. And within those values, within those things, use the time management techniques. So grab those values and use smart objectives. Use other techniques you might pick up about how you can manage your life, journaling, diaries, whatever it works for you. And just blend your sort of micro with your macro, and you'll be flying. It's as easy as that. But there are loads of other techniques. Happy to wax lyrical about lots of different things too, but they're the ones that I go to. So that's them ones. Burnout. Let me quickly talk about burnout, because I want to whiz through this. What we're on now, 20 past. Burnout, we've probably all heard about burnout. Burnout is something that a lot of people talk about. I'm burnt out, I've run out of energy. Unfortunately, it gets a bit of an incorrect kind of usage. So burnout is not having a tough day. It's not even having a tough week. So I apologize for anybody who said, oh, I'm burning out, man, because I've had a bad day. It's really not. Burnout is actually something much more serious, and I'll talk a little bit about how it looks later and what it kind of is. But first thing I want to put in your mind is it's not having a tough day. It's much worse. Most mental health problems, this is kind of linking to what I'm saying, are actually self-diagnosed, and that's because of all the great things that are in the culture of mental health at the moment about information and about people talking about their experiences. The problem is, from a clinical point of view, they're actually quite wrong. They're more experiential, and they're more kind of person by person. The key fact that you need to understand about mental health problems, and in this instance burnout, is it's not really a problem such as depression, anxiety, that kind of thing, unless it's persistent and prolonged. So normally there's a time frame involved. So for example, anxiety or depression, rule of thumb is 7 to 14 days of having those symptoms of those things. Then you are diagnosed, or then you are actually having those moments of depression and anxiety. So often I go into schools and I talk about mental health, and I say, who's had a bad day recently? Who felt really sad all day? A lot of people put their hands up. And I say, did you feel all right the next day? A lot of people put their hands up. That's not depression. You're not depressed. You may think you are feeling depressed. That's okay, but you are not depressed. You're depressed if it's 7 to 14 days of constant sadness. So that's just an example, that persistent and prolonged. And what I mean by that is, if you're feeling exhausted and you're spreading yourself too thin, and it's a 1 day thing or a weekly thing or whatever, it's not burnout. It's burnout, and this is how it looks. This is moving on to the next bullet point. It's burnout when it has much more of a bigger capitulation. So burnout can be complete breakdowns, complete mental breakdowns, anger, problems to do with relationships, to do with work, not wanting to do anything or feel anything. Those mental health problems I talked about creeping in, probably quite severe depression, a lot of anxiety, not being able to focus on any kind of smart objective or focus on anything whatsoever because your head is hazy and everything is gone. Burnout can be completely debilitating for lots of different walks of life, and actually can be kind of quite a big significant moment. A lot of people refer to a burnout session, I guess, as a breakdown. And there's a lot of reasons why that word has bad stigmas, but I actually think the word breakdown is a fantastic word to use because essentially it breaks you down to a point where you can really understand where you can go in the future. And that moves me quite nicely onto the next bullet point, which is really important to be aware of how it feels. It's really important to be aware that you might be having a burnout moment or you might be in a mode of burnout. And then it's really important when a suitable time that works for you, not necessarily straight away, it won't necessarily be very quickly, it could be days, could be weeks, but it's really important to be able to accept it and be able to look at it and go, okay, it happened. And I think the biggest thing to tell you here is if you have a burnout session or moment or long period of burnout, the reality is most people have had this. Most humans have this kind of feeling. And most of the time it comes from passion, it comes from love, it comes from a really good place of wanting to do a lot of things successfully in a very short space of time. It's as simple as that. And when I say those words, it's quite simple, but it's not something that feels simple at the time. It feels quite complex and quite hard to deal with. So I think your acceptance phase could be quite long sometimes, but it's really important to accept it because the next step is reflecting. And if you can reflect on what happened to bring you to that burnout, how can it be different and better next time? And this is where your value set comes in, your life management techniques, and it makes you have a bit of a chance to reframe and break yourself down on purpose to then build yourself back up again. And this is where that's sort of like self-management, the sort of, the able to sort of like break it down into chunks and go, that can be changed, that can't be changed, let's put it in the bin. That can be different, I can do that again, but let's get rid of this and stuff like that. It's really a good sort of cleansing kind of period. But the key thing at the end of it, when you start to move on and you kind of walk away from your burnout session, is to stay as flexy as possible, as flexible as possible. So this is where you learn adaptability. So from my own experience, talking about all the stuff I'm involved with now, well, I've had periods of burnout over the last few years, and what it's allowed me to do is stay adaptable for things that might come my way, to leave space in my life so that if I have, 4 things that I'm doing at the moment, one thing here, one thing on another day, and then sort of 2 core things, there is space at some point to shift things around and do things differently around that value set and how important that might be. So it's important to have that space, that flexibility, that adaptability. Do not just cram your calendar through. I've done that, trust me. Do not cram your calendar full of stuff. So in summary, and this is quite important really just to summarize what I'm saying, because I am going to sort of say a few things differently, but in summary, I do too much. I do too much. A lot of people tell me all the time I do too much. My wife tells me too much that I do too much, but I manage. My answer is that I manage. It's not perfect and it isn't going to be perfect, but I'm intrigued and I want to be involved in all these things because I'm passionate and I want them to succeed. If I couldn't do them anymore because I was burning out too much, I would hand them aside. I would be able to move away from these things. I've learned that mistake where I thought I couldn't walk away from things, and I did, and it was fine. So I know I can, and I can manage. I'm ever changing, and I'm constantly riding that roller coaster, that up and down, that negativity. I have some horrible days. I have exhaustion days. But I also have massive highs where I get things done despite the fact that I've got a lot of other things going on. So I reflect and I find that enjoyment to power me through and to give me that energy. All of the ups and downs in the roller coaster are okay. It's all okay. I'm normal. I'm me. I accept who I am. I accept that it's slightly flawed to some people. I accept that the perception of other people might think that I'm doing fantastically. I also accept that the normality of the situation is most humans are going through this kind of thing. It just might seem like I'm doing more than they are. But every person has a different capacity. Every person has a different way of dealing with these things. And every person can deal differently with them. So the normality thing, that I'm normal thing, means nothing. We're all kind of not normal, and that's the normal thing. We're all the same because we're not the same, if that makes any sense. The time management versus life management thing, it's really important to understand they're not a competition. They work together. One's micro, one's macro. And you need to understand the difference between them both, but also how they link. So that's that piece of, the time management techniques, how it can build into your life management, how you can grab them values and utilize them efficiently within your time management set of skills. And burnout isn't just having a rough week. It's much, much worse. It can be horrible. It can be amazingly, it can be the worst feeling you've ever had, but it also can be acceptable. And maybe it's just, it can be a sign. It can be something that you've been needing. It can be something to show you a light that what you're doing is wrong and you need to change it. You need to make those changes. So yeah, it's not always a bad thing. It could be a perfectly well-timed thing for you to do. That's it. So I will unshare and offer out my time for any questions. Let me get rid of this. There we go. Right, rid of it now. We should be off and I should be on. So yeah, hopefully that was all good for everyone.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant, and there's definitely quite a few notes I've taken from that, because there's quite a lot of stuff I can relate from. We've mentioned, there's been times when I've taken on way too much of a extracurriculum, and I should have really just sort of more concentrated myself down to some more of important things really than trying to take everything on board.
Yeah, it's really easy to do. It's not something you should chastise yourself about. It's not something you should feel guilty about. It's really easy to do when you're interested and you want to do some good. And there's no problem with doing it. I think there's a stigma around quitting, and there's a stigma around like saying I shouldn't have took something on, I should cancel now. Actually, what you need to understand is have some confidence in that decision making. If you make a positive change, it's not quitting, it's making a positive change. So I absolutely kind of applaud you for noticing it, but I think it's becoming stronger and able to sort of like be okay with the fact that you made some mistakes in your choices. That's all it is. I mean, we all make mistakes every day. So
just had a question from Rhea.
Yeah.
She says it was amazing, and thank you very much. She was just wondering if you have any advice about dealing with mindset, about having too much to deal with.
Yeah, I can only talk from my experience, and I always say this, I can only talk from my experience. But the things that I've learned, the things I've come across over the time around kind of your mindset about having too much to deal with, I think it really does, a really great task to do is to put everything on paper. I've got two big whiteboards here that are literally my brain that I sort of dump onto the wall. It's really important to sort of get everything down on paper. And then if you're having this frantic mindset, I've got too much going on at the moment, there's too much to deal with it all on paper, there's an opportunity to cross some things out. There's an opportunity to throw some things in the bin. There's an opportunity to access something a bit differently, because essentially when it's in your mind and part of your mindset is kind of going into overdrive and the cyclical negativity of I took too much on, I'm a bad person because I took too much on, now I'm burnt out and I'm physically burnt out, and you start to get more and more shame about that kind of thing. If you can nip that in the bud quite quickly and look at that bit of paper or whatever you want to look at and go, right, okay, I took too much on, cool, accept it, move on. Now, can I change things? Can I adapt things? Where can I slot things in differently? Can I do things here instead of here? And actually just start having those kind of either conversations with yourself or conversations with the key people that can make those changes for you. You can really thrive from it. And I think you get a bit of energy from that anyway. So I think, beyond all the holistic stuff about kind of trying to be kind of more relaxed and try and do some meditation, perhaps yoga, things like that around the things that can get out of control. I guess within the mindset of you're dealing with too much, those are the kinds of things I'd be doing. If you were thinking I'm dealing with too much, my head's about to explode kind of thing, I would try and get it all out on paper first and move from there. Hopefully that helps. Oh, Brill, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rhea. Is there anyone else who would like to ask any questions? Please feel free to pop them in the chat, or Ive, if you like to speak, just raise your hands on Teams. While everyone is having a think, I'll ask you another question. Whilst you were at university, was there any sort of extra curriculum that you did that was sort of like your trying to think how to word it, sorry, that was sort of like your proudest moment, or any sort of like really special highlights?
So I did an exchangey kind of program. We went to America for a semester, which was an amazing experience. My course, I did audio production, so I was in the media school, and I got the opportunity to do it, saved up a load of money to do it, was really excited to do it. It was completely out of our comfort zone, middle of the Midwest, but the experience of what I learned while I was over there was just kind of invaluable, really, to a point where it was like nothing really to do with the content. We had some really great fun over there. We had some really great teaching over there. We got involved in some great studios and things like that. But actually, it was just more the experience of being away and kind of living my life in a kind of a bit of a situation of kind of just complete sort of newness and kind of like stuff that, when you're at uni, I'm sure you guys have probably had this probably more so with COVID and things like that. But when you're at uni, obviously, you kind of feel a bit like you're always on campus and there's nothing else. So even being a local boy and even kind of knowing what's around in the town, Lincoln can feel a little bit stifling at times, especially with 3 years of it. So in my third year doing that was a really great experience.
That sounds brilliant, and I'm pleased you mentioned that, because it's Lincoln has a really fantastic community, and I think that's one thing that really makes Lincoln special. Of how close the community is, how the university works with loads of like organisations, big and small. There's always opportunities. It's just going out exploring them and just seeing what works for you, and what be the person you want to be, really.
And no experience is a bad experience. So even if you go and do something and it's terrible, you should actually take so much from that, because you should be able to look back and go, at least I know I never want to do that again. So it's a massive win. You've won a massive thing there. I mean, my experience of my trip abroad to America was, I know I never want to go to the Midwest again. I've done that now. It's very cold and in the middle of nowhere, and but it's still a great experience. So yeah.
Thank you. And if anyone is interested in doing anything abroad, we do have it within the business school, the global team, who can help you with any sort of international opportunities you may be interested in, whether it's to do summer placements or year placements, or to even study abroad for 1 year. They're a really fantastic team, and they can help you every step of the way.
Yeah, they're a great team, actually. I know a couple of guys who work for them, so they're a great team.
Excellent. We've just had another question through from Samad. He says, thank you very much again for your time. And what is the best way to deal with procrastinations, please?
Oh yeah, good one. I'm probably the worst person to give advice at this, because I'm actually really bad at kind of procrastinating. But I think there's a couple of layers to this. Firstly, when you procrastinate, it's for a reason. It's probably because your brain is full and you need to de-stress, you need to stop. So it's not always because of that, but sometimes it is. So if you find yourself procrastinating, I think the first thing is accepting that you need a bit of a break. You need an hour to do something. The second thing is to limit it. So put yourself on a little procrastination limit, and kind of treat it a bit more positively. Like, I am going to procrastinate, I'm going to enjoy this procrastination. I'm going to do this positively. And that can be like Netflix, some crisps, whatever, or it can be, I don't know, a bit of reading, something more positive. Just make sure it's a finite amount, and it's not kind of binging sort of 3 series of something just because you think you can. So that'll be the first thing. The second thing is understanding that there's nothing wrong with it in the back end. So I don't know, you procrastinated a bit, then you had an assignment and you didn't do as well as you thought you did in your assignment, or you wanted to do better. That's not because of your procrastinating. If you had a bit of focus on your procrastination and it was kind of a bit more control, a bit more positive, it's definitely not because of your procrastination. Your procrastination should be something you have a bit of control over. So my advice really was to take more control of it, and to learn that it's not a case of going, stop doing it. I need to get out of this procrastination mode, because that is just too negative. It's too extreme. You won't be supporting yourself by doing that. Take some sort of like ease on yourself, but also take control of it. So I think that would be my advice. Definitely. That's what I do. So it works for me. Hope that helps.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Funny enough, I was gonna probably ask the same question myself, because unfortunately I get in the habit of procrastination too much half of the time. So
no, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy. It's very easy. I just saw the other question. How can you measure if the time spent was worthwhile and not just a waste of time? So a really good way of doing it is balance. I love balance. Balance is, for me, balance is everywhere, and you need to find the balance everywhere. So, I mean, again, break it down. Do an hour of nothing, do an hour of Netflix, and do an hour of work. If that gives you the positive energy to continue, you probably find you procrastinate less. So there is no real measurement. It's a case of whatever works for you. Now, I remember when I was at uni and I did my dissertation, and I was really struggling at times with my dissertation in my third year. And I would spend days not touching it, days. I remember feeling really sort of down about it. I was actually contemplating, am I depressed, things like that. And then out of nowhere, I got kind of this inspiration. And I think for about 3 or 4 days solid, I just absolutely like smashed it out of the park, and I got a first for the station. So my reflection of that was, I procrastinated enough. I built up that energy enough to go ahead and smash it. Not everybody works like that. Quite a lot of people work more methodically. I'm going to do 2 hours here. I'm going to do 1 hour here, whatever. But honestly speaking, it's about whatever works for you, and it's about measurements that work for you. So I would just kind of look around and see, what works for you. But no, I agree. 24 hours never does seem enough. I get you. But there is always time. And I know this sounds wishy-washy, but it's only your time if you make it your time. So the 24 hours never seems enough, probably because you're letting the time get away from you a little bit. So again, it's getting a bit spiritual, but try and grab hold of that time a bit more and take a bit more control of that time, for sure. I would definitely do that. That'd be my advice there. And then I've just seen Sam, I'd say, what help can you offer with a summer placement, especially for international students, please? It's really stressing mentally. I'd need to know a little bit more about that. Are you kind of like stressing because you're doing a summer placement and you're away from home in the UK doing a summer placement, and you're stressing because you're having to stay here longer? Is that what you mean? Is it kind of an anxiety around that? Because honestly speaking, there could be a million reasons why you're stressing about doing a placement. It is a stressful thing, and I'm not saying that lightly. So hopefully just me asking the question can help you let me know, and I'll give you a bit more detail, because there's lots of reasons why it might be stressing you out, Samad. Wait for you to reply. Get a quick swig of my drink.
Hello.
Hello.
I guess I will probably speak. That would be much more better than typing.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I think I got here like October last year, and since then I've been applying to so many companies, and none has gone past the application. So it's like sometimes what they are asking is like, I kind of is something that I don't have, or maybe it's the experience or something like that. So it doesn't go past application. So I'm like, is this thing feasible to get? Understand? So I'm just been thinking like, I don't think I'll be able to get this, and this is an opportunity I don't want to waste.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to go straight to that kind of like negative of, I'm not getting anywhere with this, it's because of me, or what, or many other reasons, and you start to hypothesize. I think the best advice I can give you is to stop trying to assume what the answer is and start asking some questions. So if it's possible, start asking why you were rejected for some of the applications, or why you didn't go very far. Perhaps talk to your tutors, perhaps talk to the team that are trying to set them up. Explain your sort of kind of concerns about it all. Maybe someone can support you and lead you into the right one that might work for you. It's so easy though. Rejections are hard, and kind of not even being rejected and not even getting anywhere with it, or whatever, or just stressing about the actual process can be difficult. So I think try and detach from the emotion of it, and kind of go, right, this is a you know, this is a computerized, whatever you want to call it, an algorithmic, an AI, whatever it is, just put a picture on it. You know, this is like somebody deciding on an application. But I need to know why, because I need to improve. I need to change what I'm doing so that it doesn't get rejected anymore. Other than sitting there and going, I've applied for all these things, it's not working. It's just not working. I'm getting down about it and I'm stressing. You know, could take a little bit more control of that stress by getting some questions answered. I would. Easier said than done. I get that it's easier said than done, but that would be my advice.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll probably ask more questions, like you said. So
bro.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you get it sorted.
Yeah, this is like a rare opportunity that I really want to take advantage of. So I'm hoping to get one before the summer, or let's say before July, and that will be very much appreciated. So I'll keep trying. It's not like relenting.
Never stop and keep asking questions. Yeah. Everybody needs to. All of you in here needs to stay more inquisitive and keep asking questions. Never take a negative as an answer that can't be turned into a positive. All right, you're not gonna. It's not about arguing about a negative. It's about getting an answer so you can turn it into a positive next time. It's one of the guilty things that I'm very guilty of in the past, and nowadays I think, you know, let that emotion ride out, get angry about it if you don't get what you want, but then afterwards take stock of it and go, right, how can I turn this into a positive? How can I learn from this, or how can I get an answer from this to make the future better? Because you can't change the past, but you can change the future.
Yes, thank you very much, John.
No problem. Any other questions? Your lights keep going off, Callum.
Yeah, to apologise about these lights on a timer.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm just going to quickly read the chat. Yeah, thank you very much for mentioning that. Our careers and employability team are extremely good, and you can do appointments with them in person or either remotely. I believe we have someone else typing in the chat.
Great.
I think in the meantime, I have another question for you. Is there anything you wish you could have maybe done differently at university?
Yeah, believe it or not, after everything I've said, I wish I'd have done more at university, more extracurricular stuff, took more things on. I look back sometimes when I worked there and I looked at all the opportunities that students had, and I probably didn't take advantage of the club, societies, things like that I could really enjoy. So I've always kind of looked back and thought, I would really like to sort of maybe get into like American football or something like that. And so yeah, the societies definitely. I think another thing that I wish I did more of as a student was kind of what I was talking about before, but kind of work with my academics more, get a better relationship with them with regards to kind of asking questions, you know, why was that grade like this, etc. Certainly had a good relationship with some of my academics, but some of them it was quite distant, and it was kind of like just shrugging it off if I got a bad mark. Whereas if I went back now, the person I am now, I think I would ask a lot of questions in a very polite manner and just be like, okay, I'm not happy with this. I want to improve next time. Could you tell me how to improve? Because I wish I'd done better. So yeah, just being more inquisitive, really. You know, like I said, I was in your shoes at one point, and it was very easy to just go, oh, that was a crap assignment, Mark. You know, like stick my middle finger up to the academic, you know, in my in my room or whatever, you know. So yeah, it's just, for me, it's just being a bit more inquisitive, I think, and taking more on, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. Because I'm a now master's student, and so I kind of wish during my undergraduate I sort of asked my tutors a little bit more about why I received this grade, what I could do a little bit differently. So for any undergraduates here today, that is one thing we both highly recommend. If you're unhappy with a grade or want to try and do higher, then do try and build a relation with your tutors, because they will be happy to sit down and talk to you.
Yeah.
And also the library service as well. They can also help discuss any problems you may have, and they can help you with any sort of academic support. And as you know, John, the support that the University of Lincoln offers is extremely good for a multiple range of departments. And, you know, we have all these services here to support students all the way. I can see. Oh, Amber's just mentioned. Can you see Amber's comment? Just checking.
That's very nice. Yeah, she's just heading off. So thank you for that. No problem. Thank you. Glad it was interesting and helpful for you. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amber, for joining us tonight. I should say Amber is actually our social secretary for the Business Society. And tonight also we have Ria, who is our events manager. Rosie Pallant is our wellbeing officer, and I'm the president for the Business Society.
Excellent. Brilliant. Great team.
It's a team I cherish a lot. They are amazing.
Good group.
Is there any other questions anyone else would like to ask this evening? See, Samad is typing in the chat. Oops, we've had another question come through.
Yeah.
So
when you are stressed, how much long break do you think would be an appropriate one to take? Again, it's very difficult to say. Honestly speaking, I think you've got to, this is where that self-awareness piece comes in. I think if you can understand how it feels when you're stressed, then when you put into action the relaxation or the procrastination or the positive kind of downing tools, whatever you want to call it, when you put that into action, when you start to feel less of those stressed feelings, then you're off. Then kind of take that momentum and go. So honestly speaking, really difficult to give you an answer. Everybody's different. I mean, I know people who can take half an hour breaks and get straight back to it, when they're stressed out. I know some people who need, depending on the situation and why you're stressed, it could be days, could be weeks. And I don't want to freak people out by that. I think it's more a case of just understanding yourself. And if you don't have a choice to have days and weeks and whatever to sort of decompress, then I think it's really important to understand how you can stop the feelings, the sort of actual individual parts of the stress, and kind of how you can sort of like allay some of them or park some of them until later and then deal with them later. And that's compartmentalizing, and that's very, very toxic in some areas, but also very, very positive in some areas. So it's about balance, and it's about just understanding yourself a bit better. I think a lot of this is just asking questions of yourself and just trying to understand yourself a lot better. If you can do that, and you can feel those emotions and allow those emotions and accept those emotions, then you can find it. That's the first step to actually moving forward from them anyway. So yeah, my answer to that, sorry, bit of a rubbish one. It will be as long as you need. That's what I'll say. Sorry.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I've got the light sorted again. Yeah, thank you very much for the comments, Rosie. But yeah, no, definitely, I fully agree with the hustle culture that we have.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's a bit like kind of, I don't know, it's too many influencers and people out there kind of trying to tell you that you just need to like burn yourself out for nothing. And it's quite interesting where they came from and how they get to where they are. Normally it's handed to them. So be a bit careful of who you trust with their words.
Just had another question come through with Samad.
Yeah.
He's saying that mental stress is a big topic these days, and most of us deal with it individually. But how do you judge or know when you recover?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. For me personally, I've had problems and issues with not knowing that I'm stressed, probably a long part of my life, probably 30 years of my life. Only when I started to go to counselling and therapy and things like that I understood what it was to be stressed and how it manifested in me. Everybody's different and it manifests differently. For me, my signifiers now, and my signifiers probably all the way back, if I'd have known that there were signifiers, is like physical issues. So if you start to feel like you've got a cold, I've got a bit of a cold right now because I've been overdoing it. If you have headaches, if you have kind of something physical going on that is a bit out of the blue and a bit kind of like you can't put a physical reason behind it, it's likely that your neurons are firing too much, your neurotransmitters are firing too much, and that's where the stress is coming from. There's a lot more that I could delve into with regards to the science behind it, but honestly, if you Google the science behind stress, you'll understand it a bit better. And actually, the things that bring it on for everybody would be something different. So if I was to think, am I getting stressed? It would probably be to do with something physical that's happened or something physical that's happening to me, and I can't put my finger on why it's happened. Physically, it's probably stress. So I look at that and kind of how I know when to recover. So I'm a big believer in just letting it go. So I can if I can break it down and let it go physically, myself control it and let it go, great. If I can't, I feel it and let it go in its own time. And I just allow that stress to go. The biggest thing for me, though, is not allowing the stress to impact other people around me. So that's a very important and difficult part. But again, it's over time and techniques and experience, you really do learn how to do it for yourself. So it's kind of something that you will develop your own methods. There are tons of different methods. And again, it sounds a bit like I'm not answering it, but it is a very individualized thing. So they're my techniques and how I do it. I talk a lot. I like to talk about my feelings a lot now, about 1,000 times more than I used to. Probably too much sometimes to some people. But if you can find comfortable people who you trust, or even strangers and outlets like MenTalk and other areas where you can talk anonymously to people who will listen, then it can just getting off your chest can be the first step. Just reading your second comment. I don't really know when I'm stressed, more like I'm used to it with an upbringing, so it's difficult to know if I'm free or not. I can relate to that big time, Samad. I just felt like I was always, I actually remember vividly when I went to the doctors for the first time about my mental health. I had chronic migraines, and the doctor said, "What's going on in your life right now?" And I told him, and he just said, "Sounds like you're too stressed. You've got a lot going on." I says, "I'm not too stressed. I'm fine." Because I just thought I was, because I'd always dealt with all this stress. So it didn't feel any different to me. But in truth, what was happening was I dealt with this stress for such a long time that my brain and other parts of my body had started to have enough of it and was trying to tell me a message. It was trying to tell me to stop and to try and find ways to deal with it differently. So what I'm saying about those physical ailments that come out, it's a notice, it's a flag, it's whatever you want to call it. It's a light flashing in your face. You're stressed. So that's one way of knowing. Another way of knowing is like brain fog. Like if you just can't concentrate, can't focus, it's probably because there's some stress behind your brain, behind your eyes that you need to work on. So yeah, I totally agree. I can relate, Samad. You're not alone, and I mean that truthfully. There are so many other people in the same boat as you, and you are free. You think you're not, but you are free, and everybody has a choice. You all have a choice. You have a choice, and you can take control. You may need support. You may need someone to help you out and offer you solutions, but you have the power within you to change it. You really do. I'm walking, talking example of that. I never thought I'd get past my problems. So yeah, I hope you do sort it. And talking, listening, researching, whatever you need to do, it might help you. Another question from Pradnya. They're all flying in. Let's have a look. Since you have a lot of hats and lots of stuff on your plate, how do you manage and try to schedule it? Will writing down on your goals and short-term objectives will definitely help. How do you manage? I'm curious to know, because for me, even when I'm writing down a short-term objective, it doesn't work at all. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I am really good at scheduling things, but I'm also now really good at scheduling breaks. So that's a big thing for me, like breaking things up. What I kind of more often than not, what the mistake I made before was just putting something in my diary and not thinking about actually what kind of energy that took. So that could be something that's really interesting to you. You might not have thought about when you put something in that is for an hour, or that you might block something out for 2 hours. What will that take out of your body at the time? Will it be 2 hours worth of energy, or will it be actually half an hour's worth of energy, or will it be, I don't know, will you be tired for the rest of the day after doing it? So what I do now is I book things in when I'm free, but I think about what I'm doing around it and what I need to be doing around it and how important it is. For example, today I was doing a webinar at 3 p.m. for some of our American partners for my job. I made sure that nothing was booked in from about 1:30 till 3, because I knew I needed to set up. And I knew I needed to prepare myself because I needed to be able to talk to people like this. I needed to be able to make sure the tech was working. Otherwise, I'd be stressing about it. So I actually cancelled something that was pre-organized at 1:30 because I knew I could. I knew I could move it to another day. So it's just about prioritizing for your mental stability, concentrating on yourself, connecting to those boundaries, and then your short-term objectives and the goals around it will become easier to be achieved. Sometimes I think moving goalposts and being adaptable and that flexi thing I was telling you about, it's just so important to be able to just accept that you have to do that. We're all human. We're not designed to be rigid, so don't make yourself rigid. So that would be my guess, my advice from my own perspective. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yes, it
Samad.
does. Thank you.
Okay, great, lovely, thank you. Samad says, never been to a therapist before. Your words are really useful and helpful, John. I will do more research on that line. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, look, if you've never been to a therapist before, fine. You don't have to ever go if you don't want to. Researching is a really great step, though. A lot of us will happily read about, I don't know, the Kardashians, but not spend 5 or 10 minutes reading about the basics of what stress is. So I would implore you to have a look online. There's some really great resources out there. Just be mega careful who you listen to and what you read, but there's some really great official sources and doctor-led resources that are really easy to, kind of conjugate. So do have a look at that kind of stuff. And if you do have to go to a therapist because you are stuck completely, there's no shame in it, zero shame in it, zero. Do not let that stigma or culture take over. And if you need to make it private for the first time, make it private. Don't tell anyone. And I tell you, when you break down that door of just talking to a stranger in that therapy situation where they're trained to listen and trained to help, I took 2 or 3 sessions to really break down that door. And when I did, my mind just opened like a big sort of explosion. So, yeah. Are there topics or people to avoid stress, even if it has to do an academic? Avoidance is never good. And this isn't very nice to say. So I'm sorry if this comes across a bit harsh. Avoidance is never good. Avoidance is only good if it's a negative thing coming your way that is only ever going to be negative. Now, if you're stuck and you have to deal with a certain person because they are your, connecting person, a tutor, whatever boss, the kind of person you have to deal with, avoiding is never the best method. And I can tell you about times where I've avoided people and it's not gone well. I can tell you over and over again different situations. For me, it's about addressing it differently. So this is where people think it's avoiding but not avoiding. So what's happening is whatever's happening between you and that person that's stressing you out, it's a two-way thing, believe it or not. So you think they're doing it to you, but you also get a choice how to reply or respond. And I think the crucial thing with academics, perhaps, or bosses, is take a different stance of how you can deal with your situation with them. If it means that you get somebody else involved, if it means that you tell them as a prefix, I'm really struggling with the way we're working together here on a mental basis, as in my stress levels are high when I'm working with you, I need to organize a way to resolve it. They don't have anywhere else to go with that other than to help you and to support you. And they are in a place of kind of legitimate hierarchy where they have to. So if they don't, that's when you do get other people involved. So there are methods around it. There's this prefix technique, which I always use, which I like to think I created, but it's probably somebody else. Always prefix a difficult conversation with why you're having a difficult conversation and why you feel like it is a difficult conversation, because they might not be on the same page as you. They might not feel the same as you. So get them on that page. I'm sorry we're having this conversation, but I need to have this conversation because I'm really struggling with the way we're working together. I'd really like to try and resolve this. And I'm going to have to tell you how I feel and how you're making me feel. And I want you to not get emotional about that, because I want you to understand that you probably don't know I'm feeling like this. And you probably don't know that you've done this to me. But I really want to resolve this positively for both of us. That's your prefix. Hopefully they'll take that well. They may get their back up a little bit and a bit defensive, but they're on the same page as you. It's better than screaming at them, and it's better than losing the will to live and just avoiding them. So attack it, but attack it positively. That'd be my advice. I am also talkative about my emotions and my goals, but it sometimes annoys people around me. Happy to know that it's okay to share it whenever I feel like. Yeah, I mean, look, if it annoys people around you, they're probably not the people that you need in your circle. And I know this is a bit of a wishy-washy phrase, but I like to talk about it. You're the product, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you being you is annoying people around you, then you're probably in a bit of a cage, not a circle. You're probably in a bit of a cage. You need to sort of have a look at who you spend the most time with. That'd be my advice. And I know that's kind of a bit of a bad thing to say, but sometimes it's good to ghost and distance people and sort of focus on people who do get it and who do understand you a bit more. And do allow it. You know, they don't have to get you, but if they allow it, that's good, because you're just being you. So don't let someone stop you, or if they're annoyed, don't let them stop you from doing it. Cool.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, would you be happy to leave a contact email if there was any other further questions anyone else would like to ask?
Absolutely. I'll pop it in the chat now. Just make sure I spell it all right. There we go. So that's the MenTalk email address. It comes straight to me. Nobody else deals with that inbox, so you don't have to worry about kind of other people. It just means I can solidify the work that I've done in that area. So that's the MenTalk one. Do check out the website. It's just mentalklinks.uk. There's loads of resources on there, loads of self-help videos I've done and things like that on different areas. So have a look on our website if you want to find some random ramblings from me about different topics, and loads of events that we're doing and loads of support hub areas that we have where you can sort of we can be signposting you to different areas if you need to. But I'm more than happy to chat to anyone privately if they're keen to. My only caveat that I always say whenever anybody needs support or needs to get in touch with me via MenTalk is I will reply when I can, and that's not because I'm not listening or not wanting to speak to you. It's just because, as you know now, I'm very busy, so I'll find the time to reply to you. It's not because I don't want to reply to you, it's because I just need the time to do it. So just if I'm a little bit delayed with getting back to you, that's why.
Excellent. No, that's great. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, that will be a wrap on today's guest talk. But I would like to thank all the members who have come along tonight, and for anyone who may be watching us later on our YouTube channel. And also a big thank you to you, John, for coming along this evening and sharing across fantastic presentation, the advice you have given us. And there's, loads of bits, everyone will be able to take away from today's session. And
thanks for having me.
No, it's at all. And again, if you would like to contact John, the email address is in the chat, and we will also post this in our description. And yeah, thank you very much, and hope you have a great evening, everyone.
Well, yeah, you guys stay healthy, stay safe, and just enjoy your uni experience, please. That's all I ask of you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.